G'day, guys. Welcome back to Supercoach Swordplay. We are continuing with the team previews for 2026. And let's be honest, this is a big one. I love every creator that we have on the channel for our team previews. We've had Shorty and George, the OGs, but this man here, the feedback that we get every year, and this is the third year in a row we've had the pleasure of having this great man on the channel. The feedback is just phenomenal because there is no one better to get if you are looking for the good oil on the Western Bulldogs. This man has been to 25 to 30 training sessions since November. The best track watcher in the game, in my opinion. It's Mattie Lyons from the Inside the Kennel podcast. Mate, thank you so much for joining us again. How have you been over the last 12 months?
Legend, absolutely awesome. Well, I was in a footy coma after we missed finals, the Doggies missed finals, so that's to be said. So I had to endure a summer of watching some cricket and tennis, but we're back. So hope is up again. So let's hope for a better year for the Doggies.
Absolutely. They are always a really popular team when it comes to Supercoach, and I think everyone's second team in a way because of that. But, mate, it's a pleasure to have you on again. Now, before we actually get into things, I want the audience to get to know you a little bit better. I think most of the people that are tuning in have probably seen and heard from you before. But for those people that haven't, we've obviously got your YouTube channel up here, Inside the Kennel, and I've just got two of your thumbnails. On the left, we've got the great Dougy Hawkins with Dermot Brereton, as we can see, the enemy special. And if you don't mind, Ted Whitten Jr. So when it comes to the type of guests that you get on your podcast, we're talking about the absolute best of the best, not only the Bulldogs legends, but also a Hawthorn legend. Tell us a little bit about the great work that you do.
Well, thanks so much for having me on. I absolutely love coming onto your show and getting a chance to speak about some of the things on my podcast puts a smile on my face. Definitely. I thought, you know what? I've been asked by so many supporters, can you get some of the non-Bulldog support players on? So I thought, let's get some enemies of the kennel going. So I've been in touch with Warwick Kappa, with Mark Jacko Jackson. So they're coming on at some point early this year. So I'm pumped, as you can believe. But Dermot Brereton was my most recent project, and tell you what, he just gives you exactly what you want. So he talked about some of the rivalries from the 80s against the Doggies, and just took us inside to enemy camp, and it was extraordinary actually. And Dermot never lets you down. So that was epic. And as you see there, Teddy Whitten Jr. So what a man. And we just got really into the living room of the Whitten family, through the 50s and 60s with Ted Jr. growing up. And imagine being the son of Mr. Football, and he just left nothing unsaid. So, if people want to hear a good footy story, these people just sort of open up, and they want to share their journey. So I've been absolutely blessed and fortunate to do that. And just one thing that it got me really sort of thinking why I do this, and it's to preserve history. I interviewed a chap called Dougy Reynolds, who was one of three surviving 1954 Bulldog Premiership players from the 54 team. I interviewed him in December, age 93, and he just opened up. His eyes just lit up, remembering back to his glory days. And I went home just thinking, you know what, I've preserved something so special here. He passed away this week, only 6 weeks after I interviewed him. And I got a message from his family just saying, you know what, how much that means to our family to have our dad's sort of story being told, and hopefully Bulldog supporters can really enjoy that. So if you like a story from, way back from the 1930s, I've got players right up until the current, jump on Inside the Kennel. I'd absolutely love your feedback and thoughts, and hopefully you enjoy it too.
It's terrific. And this channel is not just for Doggy supporters. I say this to people all the time. Any supporter can appreciate the work that Mattie does. And the best thing about it, in my humble opinion, is that you get to know the person behind the player. And that's what I love most about the videos. And I've got about an hour and a bit's drive to work. So this is fantastic for me. Just plug the earphones in, get in there, and have a wonderful listen on the way, Mattie. But yeah, massive fan of your work, and just casually in the Whitten's living room, that's just what this man does and how important he is to the Doggies fabric, really, and is preserving history. So thanks again, mate. And anyone that is not subscribed to Inside the Kennel, we'll put all the descriptions down. Info down there below in the description. and make sure that you do support this great fella because it's just wonderful stuff and a really, really great man. Mate, we're here for the Bulldogs team preview. So let's start to crack into it. The first thing that I quickly want to touch on is a 2025 preview. Now, that review, sorry, mate. Now, I always have the Dogs up there. I look at your list and I see a bunch of superstars, some in their prime, some starting to get a little bit older now, but it feels like to me anyway, you've got most of the pieces of the puzzle there. So give us a quick review about 2025. How did you rate your season, a pass, a fail, and then maybe what you're looking as a bit of a pass mark for this year, mate?
I think most supporters and even the media these days are just really superficial. You look at the wins and losses or where you finish on the ladder and you just say that's a pass and a fail. I just think that is just so closed-minded. We won 14 games last year. Now, that is the best result for any team in the history of the competition to not make finals. So just park that for a moment and say, of the 8 losses that we had, they were all quality teams. They're all in the 8. And the greatest losing margin was 21 points. All right, so you're a few kicks away in so many of those games from the result being the opposite. All right, it can be a lucky bounce. It can be an injury mid-game. 2 more games there. Hello, we're in the top 4, okay? And it can be just a missed shot. So the margins are so slender. Now, if you can also just take a moment to think, we lost Ugle-Hagan for the entire season, okay? Now, he was our second leading goal kicker the year before. We lost Treloar for the whole season, bar 3 games. He was an All-Australian. We lost Whitten for the entire season, who was the 3rd highest goal kicker. Just put those into perspective. Darcy missed 10 games and Bont missed the first 6. Now, if those players were playing together, even one of those, you win 1 more game. You win 2 more games, surely. So, you know what? I'm not worried about the result. As sad as it was, the bits and pieces didn't come together last year. You need luck on your side. If we get a little bit more luck, which I'm assuming we will, the footy gods are not going to be cruel 2 years in a row. It's I feel anything's possible. So don't write us off unless you're a fool.
That is such a wonderful summation because I must admit, I was expecting you to say, yeah, it was a fail because we didn't make finals and pretty much called it that. But that is some great perspective there, how close things could have been and how different things could have been if a little bit of luck had have gone your way. And it's history making, isn't it? Almost the luck that you didn't quite get on there. So I agree. If you've got, and these are the superstars I was talking about pre-podcast, like your Bonds, like your Darcy, given the fact that they did miss a lot of time together, and logic would suggest, and almost stats and probability, if those blokes are together, without a doubt, I think you get 1 to 2 more wins on the board there. And who knows, 2025 could have been a completely different season for the Dogs. So love your perspective there. Very glass half full rather than half empty like other people may view the season, mate. So let's talk about this year quickly then. What are your expectations? So we know that you don't necessarily look at the win and loss column, but do you have some minimum expectations for you to be able to say, yes, 2026 was a successful season?
Well, I feel you want to win a premiership, or if you're actually thinking of anything aside from that, it's pointless. There's nothing for second. We got to throw everything at them, and I'll be disappointed if we don't win the premiership. I say that every year, and I think everyone should. If you're following your team, nobody remembers it aside from winning it. So we've got the cattle. We just need the luck. And just touching on Darcy and Bont, who you said when they played together last season. In matches they played together, how many games do you think we lost when both of those players were on the track, on the park?
It wouldn't be too many whatsoever, I'm guessing, Matty.
What do you think?
I'm going to say 2.
You're a very wise man. 2 games. Okay, so have a think about that. Well done. 2 games. So get them on the park together. We're going to be hard to get beaten, I would have thought.
Absolutely. And we're not talking about just your average run-of-the-mill type players. And we're forgetting behind the likes of Bont, you've got blokes like Ed Richards, who high praise. Last year, if we remember back to 2025, both highly on the Ed Richards train, and look at how that worked out. But we'll talk about him a little bit more when we get to the midfielders, mate. But great review. And then I think that I'd absolutely agree with you, particularly when you look at the Dogs list. Why not? Absolutely aim high, because I think you've got the cattle to do it as well, mate. Now, let's start off with some negatives, if any. The rehab room. Now, lots of people are flying at the moment, which we'll get to next. But I suppose the big one on everyone's lips at the moment is Adzi Treloar. Now, people view him as a really undurable type player. But if we take last year out, if we look at the 3 seasons previous to that, I think he played close to 23, 19, 20-odd games. So the last 3 seasons as a whole, if we take the previous year out, he's actually been able to get on the park for a fair majority of the time. But what's happening with him at the moment, mate? I've heard that he's on track to play in one of the Pracky matches. From what you know, is that still the case at this stage?
Yeah, he's penciled in to play on the 19th of February. So it's a practice match against the Swannies. And it was a very, very, very low grade hammy that he just did. And he hadn't missed a single training session from November, from their resumption up until that point. So they're being quite conservative with him. We're expecting him to be back. They may decide to pull him late or just, give him some reduced minutes in that Sydney game. But if he gets through that, we'll have one more practice match before the season, and you'd expect him to play. He's been absolutely terrific in all the match play sims. They've played him not only in the midfield, but they've also given him some high half forward role. So I think we'll probably see him more in that role this year, rolling in, but he won't be sort of your first set of bounce attendance chosen players. That'll be the Bont, Richards and Fraser, which I'm sure we'll talk about a bit more shortly.
Beautiful, mate. Now, are there any other players that you're concerned about at the moment that are in the rehab room that potentially aren't tracking well to be right for round one?
Yeah, so Riley Garcia has done a high-grade hamstring, so he's going to be out for about 12 weeks, and he was tracking really well. Like he's that sort of mosquito in a jar kind of player. He can just turn on a sixpence, and he's just a buzzing player. So we're going to lose a bit of depth in a player like him, who we thought would probably make the next step up. Riley Sanders has done 2 hamstrings, one pre-December and one just after. So that was a bit of concern. However, he played in the intra-club practice match in Maroochydore in the week just gone and has been building nicely. So he should be resuming without any issues whatsoever. So that's sort of been the main watch. The other one is the cockroach himself, Liberatore. You can't kill him. You can't do anything to him. He's had a little tiny nick in his quad. But he also will be back in the for that Swans practice match. So we should have pretty much our best 23 players available, bar Cody Whitten. Now Cody's sort of one of those players who I'm desperate to get back. We've lost him, as I said, for the entire season last year. He started running last week unaided. He did a 3-kilometre run. So it'll be a slow burn with him. We expect him to sort of be back to play. Hopefully some VFL games in early May, with hopefully a return to AFL sort of a couple of weeks after that, you would imagine. So we need Cody. So in the meantime, there's a few lads putting their hand up.
Very, very good. So no huge concerns, but a couple of players that, potentially may or may not be available. All right, mate, let's get to the positives now. Those that are burning it up. Now, if you ask most clubs, most supporters at the moment, everyone is burning it up. But what I want to ask you, mate, from your perspective, are there any surprise round one bolters that people may be sleeping on a little bit at the moment?
Well, I'll tell you who's 100% going to play, and he hasn't played a game, he hasn't debuted yet, is Lockie Jakes.
This is what we want.
Lockie Jakes is an absolute certainty. I'm telling you that right now. He's destroyed it off halfback. He might even move up to the wing, and they might move Bailey Williams back to the halfback flank. So he's been sort of alternating his time there. He's one of the most impressive users of the footy I've seen for a young kid. What I've absolutely loved seeing is just his ability to hit the ball at pace and then just take the steam and the weight off the ball. Usually, when you're running, especially the younger players, you can overcook your kicks. He's just got this uncanny ability just to absolutely drop it where it needs to be and really take the pace off it. And the likes of Darcy and Norton are just marking everything, and he's just putting it right in their path. So the coaches are absolutely loving him, and their teammates are whooping with delight. He's a certainty to play, so get him in your team. He's going to be cheap, cheerful, and magnificent, I think.
Oh, cheap, cheerful, and magnificent. Lock him into your side. Love hearing that, Matty. And these are the type of players that we love to hear burning it up. So very nice, mate. We will touch on a couple of the cheaper players in a little while as well. But we will start off in defence. And when we take a look at the kick-in chart from last year, there's one man that obviously really stands out. One of the most damaging kicks in the AFL. And geez, what was it? Close to 50-odd last year, disposals in a single game. It's obviously Bailey Dale here, and we do have a slide on him in a little while. But just as a bit of a general question, Matty, do you see many things changing going into 2026 in regards to who really has the monopoly on the kick-ins? Will it be more of a shared role, or do you still see Bailey Dale sitting comfortably up the top?
Well, with JJ out the door now, there's no sort of seniority there, and also Taylor DeRay. Every time I watch the practice matches, Bailey Dale just grabs it and just directs them. You get out there. So he's got the full authority, and I reckon he's going to take I can't see your percentages there. Is that 64% of his kickouts?
He's got so he's had 126 in total, but he plays on from 94%, and you obviously get a disposal when you do that. So it's saying that he plays on a lot of the time. You've got Bramble there that was at 53, who's the second highest. So 53 all the way up to 126. Sure. He's definitely got the majority. JJ 18, Lob 16, and Cleary with 4 there. But clearly the number one man.
Yeah. He'll be taking the lion's share of the kickouts. He loves playing on, and then basically what they've been doing, pretty much exactly the same as last year. He hits the spot, runs past, and they distribute back to him, and he just takes it up the ground. So there's going to be more of that. He won't stop doing that. The other player who will probably take a few of the kickouts, but it'll be just a minor amount, will be Connor Buderick, who we've taken from the Gold Coast Suns. He's been doing a few of the little cheeky chip out kicks. But Bailey Dale's the preferred man, without a doubt there.
Beautiful, mate. I don't think there'll be many surprises to hear that. And this is a man here. The main question here, will he continue to be the main distributor off the back half? And you've said absolutely that will be the case again. Do you expect him to get the majority of the kick-ins? Tick, tick. So I think that he's definitely a player that could be pushing for a top 6 average. Bailey Dale, just over 100 last year, 102.5. We can see the kick-in data there. Only 2% of coaches currently own this man, Matty. So he may be a little bit of a POD gem, a point of difference gem. Now let's move into the midfield, mate. The CBAs, and this is why we love the doggy so much. Take a look at some of these names. English, Richards, Libba, Bont, Treloar, Matty Kennedy recently into the side now as well. We can see that English is obviously going to be the main ruck, or was last year. Then we take a look at the highest midfield CBA percentages. We've got Ed Richards at 75%, Libba at 69%, the Bont at 67%. We got Kennedy at 56%. And then we really have a bit of a drop-off from there with the likes of Adam Treloar at 24%, Garcia at 23%, Joel Freya, who we will get to in the forward line, 19% last year. And we got Darcy, who knows chops out in the ruck, as well as Riley Sanders. Now, the big question, I think, on everyone's mind, because we love selecting high CBA midfielders. They're around the action, contested pill, even for the more outside types, receive, get the clearance. Do you think anything major is going to change in the CBA rotations this year, Matty? Or are you still expecting the big, let's say, 3 to 4 to be, let's say, Richards, Libba, Bont, and Matt Kennedy? Or do you see things shifting slightly, mate?
Yeah, things will shift. Bont and Richards are absolutely got that locked. And, obviously Timmy English will be, rucking the lion's share of that. But Libba, as he's getting a little bit older, he's going to be leapfrogged this year. Libba's going to he almost exclusively in the practice matches he's played out of the centre square. All right, so they've played him a little bit at half back. They've played him a little bit on half forward. So they've moved him out of there. We're going to see a significant drop in Libba's CBA time. And the man who's replacing him and who has absolutely smashed it, and he's gone head-to-head with Ed Richards. They're like two bulls that put them on opposing sides, and it is actually magic to watch. is Joel Frazier.
Wow.
Wait till you see it. Look, I said last year, watch him. He's going to explode, but I actually underestimated it significantly. He's a machine, and he's going to climb the mountain again this year, big time.
Wow. So, in your opinion, you've got obviously Richards and Bont there. Do you think Freya may be that bloke to maybe head up to number 3 in the pecking order there for the CBA rotation? 100%. Wow.
He's in there. He's straight after those two, and not far behind those two, by the way. And then the next sort of layer is Kennedy, Sanders, Liberatore, and Treloar. They are sort of the next 4. So there's really 7 plus, obviously, English who are going to be rotating from there. But Kennedy and Sanders will be sort of your next level if Treloar is up and about. He'll be rotating from a high half forward in. But Bont, Richards, Frazier, you're going to see a significant. They're going to take the lion's share. They're your first 3.
That's big news because when we get to the forward line, he's actually available as a mid forward this year or a forward. We'll get to his ownership. Absolutely. After hearing that, I think it's going to start to rise, Matty. So love that little gem there, mate. Let's get into some of the individual player slides. And look, there's not much more to say about this man. And I've been saying it for the past, I don't know how many years now. It is criminal that this bloke does not have a Brownlow medal, let alone multiple Brownlow medals, hanging around his neck, because he has been, in my humble opinion, the best player in the game for many years now. I'd say for the last sort of 4 to 5 years, this bloke. I am such a massive fan of the man. In Supercoach terms, he's very, very expensive. The most expensive man that you can select at $706,800. But I've got here, he's the most dangerous antipod to have in the game, not to have in your side. It was a career best Supercoach average last year. We know that he had a bit of a delayed start. When he came back, it was as if he just had not missed a beat. And this is why I view this man as an absolute generational type talent. And I don't know about rankings in best Bulldogs of all time, but certainly in regards to modern day Bulldogs, you've got to have him right up there with the best of all time. But has the Bont just not missed a beat, mate? And it's been a really clean preseason for him so far.
Yeah, so he was named just at the end of the season as the number 2 Bulldog of all time behind Teddy Whitten Sr. And, that's pretty lofty sort of accolade there, and he deserves it. He's a machine, and he has not missed a beat. He just looks like a machine. He doesn't break stride. He just puts the ball exactly where he needs to. He's on the top of his game. He got married as well in December. And if his fiance had the nod, I probably would have been next in line. I love him like you do, and I don't see him slowing down. I think he's going to have an incredible season.
Likewise, mate. He's just a beast. He's an absolute beast, this man, and just a wonderful human, I've heard as well. And Ed Richards, now, massive pat on the back. You told us all last year, this man has the potential to be all Australian quality type midfielder. And we absolutely saw that last year. Did this man deliver in a big way? In regards to Supercoach, he had a real breakout season. The average was 111.3, which is extremely healthy, particularly for someone at his lower type starting price there. 11 contested possessions, so doesn't mind getting his hands dirty. An elite use of the ball. You just want it in this bloke's hands, don't you, coming out of the midfield, Matty?
Yeah, that's right. He can win his own ball, as you say. But, if someone's got the pill, they're looking around, where's Ed? And so he's going to get a lot of receives as well. And then, as I said, our forwards are just going to be, leading out and lighting up. So you're probably going to see the likes of Darcy smashing it, because Ed Richards is going to get a lot of the pill, and you're going to be wanting to lead to him. So Ed's had a really good summer. It was interrupted in November and then the start part of December. So it was a little bit delayed because he had some shoulder surgery, minor shoulder surgery, but just came in and, much like the Bont, didn't miss a beat, and has just been pretty much in my top 3 in all the match sim games. He's been incredible. So expect much of the same, I would imagine, in 26. Beautiful.
And we will touch on Sam Darcy, the human skyscraper, when we get to the forwards, but it is a really good point you raised, because when people have been talking up the Errol Goulden pick, a big part of that, or the upside that they see in someone like a Goulden, is the fact that they've now got Curnow up there. So he's a really good target for Goulden to actually kick the ball too. I think that's something that people aren't really talking about in regards to the Dogs, because Darcy isn't necessarily a new recruit, but he did miss some football last year. And let's be honest, he's still a young bloke. Like, he has got so much more growth, natural improvement. It's not funny. So when you look at someone like a Richards, who is so damaging, particularly with those darts inside 50 when he lowers the eyes, having a target like Darcy there, that's also upside to this particular pick as well, mate. So only owned by 2% of the competition. Another pod, and you see this with a lot of Bulldogs. It's criminal. Mattie's thinking this is absolutely criminal. Jump on board. I think one thing we haven't touched on is the fact that the Dogs have what we call in Supercoach terms the double bye, given the fact that they play in round 0. So that does put people off with some Bulldogs slightly, particularly some of the higher priced ones. But look, mate, quality is quality, and he has actually got the potential, if things go well, to out average some other midfielders that may have an extra game on him. So 2 thumbs up for Ed Richards, mate. No reason to suggest he goes backwards.
Oh, no way. I don't know who the 98% who are not owning him are, but come on.
Come on, people. Get a bit of that in your side. All right. Matty Kennedy now recently acquired to the leadership group, I believe. So they obviously rate him pretty highly internally, mate, and had a really decent season last year. Now, we're not talking the types of numbers that you see with your Richards and your Bont types, but for the price that we paid last year, 95.2 for an average, 28 years old, so got a lot of good football left. I suppose the big question here, and I suppose we've answered this in a way, is where we see that midfield time for Matt Kennedy, if it's going to go down, if it's going to go up. One thing in Supercoach, Matty, is that players can actually receive DPP during the season. So, for example, Kennedy at the moment is only available as a midfielder, but if by round 5 he spent 35% or more time as a forward, he'll actually be awarded mid-forward DPP, so it becomes available as a forward. Do you see that as a realistic scenario, that he could potentially play 35% time forward in the first 4 to 5 weeks?
Yeah, I would expect that. I would expect that to be a bare minimum. It might be closer to the 45 or 50, I would have thought. It's interesting to sort of see how preseason works, because obviously with the intra-club games, you've got eight players going through. But the fact that the A team that we're playing is usually involving Bont and Richards, and then they're moving Fraser onto Richards to sort of test him out. It's become pretty clear that those 3 are going to dominate, with Matty Kennedy sort of sliding down the next down on the food chain. So I would say that would be a very, very high probability.
Fantastic. So I think that will be music to Supercoach's ears, because we don't necessarily start with him, but then after round 5, 6, when potentially is available as a forward, he looks much more attractive, given the fact there aren't a heap of great options for us down there. But really good info. Look, only 0.3% of people are on him at the moment, which sounds like it's probably right if he's going to start to slip down with that CBA percentage. But this man, a lot of people are interested in this year. So if we just quickly talk Supercoach averages, Matty, if we go back to 2022, 105, which is a bit of a breakout season, but was 2023, well, that went all the way up to 128, where we thought this bloke is going to be an automatic lock for the next 8 to 10 years. Then in 2024, down to 108, which is still decent, but nothing like that 128. And then he averaged at 111 last year. But I know one thing that people are attracted to with the selection this year are the new ruck rules. He's that more athletic type ruckman that should be able to get to contests. He often plays a bit like a midfielder as a big man. So have you noticed anything different in, I suppose, a general question, the way that he's gone about it as a ruck, with any of the changes that they may have been experimenting with, mate?
Well, look, he's absolutely athletic. So his aerobic capacity to head up and down the ground, that's something that's one of his strong suits. So you just see him getting from contest to contest. His ruck work, his tap work has really improved. So I guess you're probably going to get some more points with him. That's been an area of his game with some of the bigger bodied rucks, he probably hasn't won as many tap outs. So you'll probably get some more points around that. I have noticed part of his game is he has been helping out the defence. Now, our defence has been sort of, one of the areas of our club that, came under a fair bit of scrutiny. And given the fact that we chased some big, tall key defenders and weren't able to get them, I think that probably the coaches have considered, how are we able to get some additional reinforcements? And Tim has been taking, and you probably haven't seen a lot of this in his game, but some big, strong contested intercept marks down in defence. He's been flying, against the big, tall forwards for the Dogs and taking some great grabs. So I think you're probably going to see him drifting back a little bit more and being that reinforcement, that extra number. What that does to his points, I'm not sure, but certainly, in terms of his value to our team, it's going to be, a really strong suit, I think.
Well, to answer that question, what it will do in regards to points, a contested intercept mark is basically the best of the best. That's really what you're looking for, is those big bonuses. So if he can get 1 to 2 a game, that will be extraordinary for his scoring potential, as well as the fact that he may be able to potentially get a few more hitouts and knock it down the throat. And let's be honest, he's not short of having any A-grade midfielders underneath him as well, which we always need to consider. So it seems like there's a lot of positives to the pick this year. And he's, for example, 100K cheaper than someone like a Max Gawn, who really sits at the top of the tree there for most expensive ruckman. So I know a lot of people are interested. He's 15%, so it's a lot more than the 2% we've seen in the 0.3 Matt Kennedy types. So a very interesting discussion there, Matty. And I think that after hearing that, people will be looking at this even more positively. And for those that had already penciled him in, it may be closer to a lock after hearing that. So positive stuff.
Cool. Great.
Also, WA Ruckman, I believe, as well. He's been selected to play for WA. Quickly, what do you think about that? Are you a fan? Are you worried about potential injuries? How are you a bit of a traditionalist?
I used to love watching, State of Origin footy. So it's exciting. The nostalgia of it is awesome. But you always worry about your big guns. We got 6 players, 3 for Vic and 3 for WA, playing with, Norton, Bont, Richards, Lobby as well. So please, footy gods, be kind. But it'd be awesome to see him on the big stage. And I'm sure he'll equip himself really well, Big Timmy.
Absolutely, mate. All right, now you just mentioned that watching State of Origin used to be exciting. There's no more exciting player in the game, in my opinion, to watch than Sam Darcy. It was so obvious in the first game that he played that there was something really, really special here, and he's just built differently. We know his height. We know his reach. I've got there a generational talent, which I don't think is necessarily a hot take anymore. I think more people would probably agree with that than disagree. The next question there, is there a key defender in the comp that can actually stop him on his day when the ball's at its highest point, when you've got the likes of Ed Richards delivering it to him on an absolute platter? I can't see too many defenders that will go close to being able to run with this guy. I think he's a red-hot chance of actually winning the Coleman medal. And we also know that as a bit of a bonus, he also chops out in the ruck, because traditionally, Matty, we try to stay away from key forwards in Supercoach because they have the games where they get a big bag. They kick 8 goals, contested marks, and their scoring goes through the roof. But we know it happens with the best of the best. They all have those quiet ones where we go, why on earth did I get sucked into a key forward again? But given the fact that he does chop out in the ruck, and maybe if he is having a bit of a quiet game, it will allow him to get his hands on the ball, get more involved, maybe get a bit more confidence to what he's doing. I just see so many positives to this pick. Is it as simple as you see him progressing to sooner rather than later become the best key forward in the comp?
Yeah, great questions. Well, just firstly on the ruck side of things, we're really unlikely to be putting Lob into the ruck to give Tim English a chop out this year, just because of our defensive tall stocks are a little thinner than we'd hoped. So Darcy is certainly the likely person to go in, or Jordan Croft if and when he plays. So you'll certainly see Darcy have some, and as you say, if there's a quiet patch, bring him in there, and then Tim can go forward and he's a threat as well. So you'll certainly see some time in the ruck for Sammy, and he's so athletic. You can't take him lightly no matter where he is. But look, what I've seen over summer has actually blown me away. Blown me away. He's certainly bulked up more than I've seen. He looks as strong as any key forward that is that of that height, 200 and whatever he is, 10 centimeters. And he's just destroyed them. So the first practice match I saw in January, he snagged 8 goals. Now, this was a shortened match as well. This was a shortened match. These were 4 quarters at 12 and a half minutes. Okay, 12 and a half minutes. So it's basically a half game. Right. Now, in the second game he played, same, 12 and a half minutes. It was a 50-minute game. He kicked 5, and 2 of them he marked pretty much maybe 20 metres out, handballed over the top to Norton. So I'm giving him 7 for that. I mean, they were gimme goals. He's just trying to get Nordo involved and just having a laugh. So there's 15 goals in 100 minutes of footy. And in the last match that just played in Maroochydore, he only played the first half and came off after kicking 6 goals. So he's basically played. This is what I'm saying to you. He's basically he's kicked 21 goals essentially in about 110 minutes of footy. Now, you think about that for a second. Anything can happen this year. If you think back to Paul Salmon in the 80s, he was sort of this prodigy that came along, this huge, hulking, tall forward who just took the footy world by storm. Darcy's that and something else, I think. So we don't know what we're about to witness, but it could be incredible.
Absolutely. And the other thing that we've got with Darcy, he's got that bit of mongrel that you need as well. We obviously saw him get suspended, and he probably needs to pull things back slightly, but you don't want to be standing in front of Sam Darcy, do you? Because we know that he's not the type to hold back, and he's going to make you earn it if you want to try to make life difficult for him. So I love the fact that he's also got that little bit of mongrel, obviously that confidence, and we know he came back from injury, but it just seems this year he could become close to unstoppable, in my opinion. So I think he's going to win the Coleman. He's my number 1 tip, and on with it. It's going to be, and as a Doggy supporter, what a privilege it is for you, Matty, to be able to watch this bloke for hopefully the next decade just dominate the competition and etch his name in the history books. It's just fantastic type stuff.
And for Darcy to be playing in the Dogs, when you've got a midfield like that, we go inside 50. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I would imagine, we're in the top 2 or 3 in the comp. We go inside, and you're going inside to this chap. It's incredible. And one thing that I've really seen is Norton he's become an incredibly selfless player. Now he's got the Dermot Brereton perm and sort of the swagger of someone who wants to be top dog. But actually, it's been awesome to see that he's been able to say, you're the man, Darce, I'll play second fiddle and separate. Now, they were getting in each other's way, including Jamara, for a couple of years there. And it was just really frustrating to see, even when Josh Bruce was there. They were sort of getting in each other's paths. They all wanted to sort of get the lick of the ice cream. But having a look at how Nordo's playing, he's just giving Darce that space. And if they pull their kicks and just go to Norton, hey, guess what? We've got a state of origin gun there that can rip it apart. So look out, defenders, which way you're going to go, and throw Jordan Croft in the mix, who's a really exciting person. Young kid. He's only played 2 or 3 games. You don't know where you're going to run, but my God, Darce, what's he going to achieve? I'm going to call it now. Certainly Coleman medal, but you might even shake the 3-figure barrier here. It's unlikely to be seen, people say, but I think 100's not out of the question.
Oh, that is just so excited to hear, mate. And just going back to Norton as well, that maturity, and it's hard for, these top dogs to take the ego out of things, but in order to be a really successful team, everyone just simply needs to play their role. You can't all be the big dogs. It just doesn't work, as you said. So the fact that he's willing to be really unselfish, and let's be honest, as a bit of a second banana, Aaron Norton, it's a fair second banana to have. Many clubs love him as their first. So Wow, wait, what a combo they're going to be, mate. That's a really good point that you make as well, because they may even start to try to double team Darcy. All of a sudden, Norton gets off the chain. They start to worry about him. Darcy starts to go off. It's like, where do you go? Where do you balance this stuff out? So, geez, exciting.
Awesome.
Mate, but after hearing you talk about these potential shifts in the CBA rotation, this is extremely exciting, because if you compare his price to some of the other high price players like your Bonson and your Richards, he's only 428,700. It is the fridge Joel Freya, 20 years of age. That's a little bit scary within itself. People talk about all the young Brisbane talent, but absolutely sleeping on this bloke. Now, his 2025 average was 80, which I don't really reflected the year that he had. I think from a football perspective, he performed much higher than what that average would suggest, mate. But look, you talked about him before. I've got here a mini breakout year in 2025. Can he take his game to another level this year? What role will he play? Is there enough midfield pie for him? You've actually gone tick, tick, tick. Is there anything that I've missed here with the pick, Matty, or anything else that you want to touch on with Jolie Boy?
I just think that he knows how good he is, and they've just said, do your stuff. We're going to put you in the middle, and he has not taken a back step. I mean, you watch him going head-to-head with Richards, as I said. It's been just a joy and a pleasure to watch, and with the track watchers in the stand are just going, how good is this? But this kid can go toe-to-toe with anyone. A mini breakout year, I reckon, is maybe even doing him a disservice. I thought he had just an incredible year for a second-year player, and I see something really special in him. We might be talking All Australian by the end of this year. I'll say that now. Let's see what happens. That's putting a bit of pressure on a third-year player. But what I've seen in the last 3 months plus last year, it's not out of the question.
You're right the previous 2 years with your breakouts, Matty. So if you're seeing a high CBA rotation, talk about natural development, and you are right. When you see that mini breakout year, it is almost disrespectful to the man, isn't it? Because in Supercoach terms, it was okay. But as I said, from a general football standpoint, this was massive, particularly from such a young man. And he is a beast, isn't he? So what a trio that's going to be, the big three in the Doggies midfield, Bont, Richards, and then the real new gen, Joel Frey, who's really going to be the future of the club in a way, isn't he, mate?
So, too true. Absolutely.
All right, mate. Now, on to Riley Sanders. Now, you did mention he had a little bit of trouble with the hammy in the pre-season. One thing that I haven't got here, mate, which I want to ask you straight out from the bat, is he's obviously a Tassie native. He hasn't been someone that's been able to demand a heap of midfield time. I know early on, dealt with a little bit of the sub-vest for various reasons here and there. I think the talent is absolutely undeniable. We know he's an early pick. Do you have any concerns that Tassie may be able to poach him and get his services? Because I believe his contract is up at the end of 2026, if I'm not wrong, mate.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, look, his mum and dad, still live in Tassie. His brother lives in Adelaide. I had a really good chat to them in the stands last week. In fact, they came down for his 21st birthday, and they're really happy with the club, is what they said. Whilst I didn't ask the question directly, we sort of scooted around it, and I tried to get a feel for how happy. And they said that Bevo really treats him like a son down there, and he's really grateful for that. And they just feel that this club's very, very supportive. So from that perspective, you'd like to think we'd be able to retain him, but the pool might be strong. Who knows what the Tassie team are going to be able to throw at the Dogs, and it might end up being a win-win for everybody. He goes home and the Dogs get something really quite juicy, because they're going to have a fair bit of collateral to throw around. So let's hope we retain him. He seems to have trimmed his body shape again a little bit more to get a bit of pace, because that's probably one area of his game that the Dogs want to see more of. We're going for speed this year. With Baker, who's coming onto the wing, who I didn't mention as well. We're really pushing for this speedy template. He's probably, sort of like a third gear player. He just reads it beautifully, and he just glides. But they're trying to pick his pace up a tiny bit. So if we can get that, I think you'll probably see him continue on that trajectory that we've seen. But let's hope we retain him. But yeah, I think there'll be much to play out this year.
Great summation. I think it actually could be, let's say worst case scenario, he does decide to take up an offer. If it's even there, we don't know. Nothing's been confirmed as of yet. But I think it could actually be a win-win, because I assume if he did go, the contract would be really, really healthy, and they'd obviously have a fair bit to give as well. So I agree with you, mate. Worst comes to worst, he goes. I think that what you'll get in return should be pretty healthy, I'd say anyway, mate. All right. We are getting closer to the end. Now, we did touch on Adzi Treloar before. I did say as well, 22 games in 2024, but only 4 in 2025. We've talked about that preseason injury concern, looking like he's going to be back close to the 19th. If fit, what role does he play? I mean, he's CBA. So you basically view him more on the half forward with some stints in the midfield, Matty. Would I be correct in saying that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the likely. He's a dangerous player around goal, but geez, in the intra games, he was just really smart with his positioning. He's probably lost a yard of pace, but that veteran brain is so valuable. You see those sort of older players like your Pendles, they're able just to do things that you just think, wow, how did he find that space? And some of his kicking was so amazing to Darcy and Norton, just before his injury. We really see the value in him. And, just think it was only 12 months ago he was, crowned in the All-Australian team for the first time. So he's
Absolutely.
got a fair bit to go if his body's right. And, I think he's a really diligent sort of hard worker, and he understands his body. So with a bit of luck, hopefully it holds out, and, you haven't seen the end of Adam Treloar, hopefully.
Oh, beautiful. He's such a popular character. I know. I think he's a ripping type fella, and that is underrated. I think with picks such as Adam Treloar is that footy IQ, and he's the type of bloke that can just find the pill in his sleep. I don't think he needs to play any sort of a full-time midfield role, particularly at that price at 311,700, for him to be a really solid selection, and wherever he is, he'll be able to rack it up. I suppose the big concern that lots of people have is the fact that he's already had a slightly interrupted pre-season. He has had a history, if you look past the last few years, of soft tissue injuries. So that's a slight concern for people. But the upside to this bloke, if he is fit and gets on the park for the majority of the year, particularly for the first half of the year as a Supercoach pick, will be very, very hard to deny, mate. So 30% currently. We'll see if that starts to shift over the next couple of weeks. Another bloke that you did touch on all the way back when we were looking at the kick-in data is Connor Buderick, obviously come across from the Suns. And I saw a clip on X. I believe that he was mic'd up for a training session the other day. And there was a particular piece of play where he got a handball received, a couple of nice bounces, delivered it to Norton. I think he missed the mark. Someone else got on the goal with a left foot snap. But I thought, wow, that run and carry that I saw from Connor Buderick, he looked fantastic. Now, I suppose my major question to you is, and we know that Bailey Dale's going to be the main man that's coming out of the defence, but do you see Connor Buderick in your best side, in the best 23? And then B, I'm assuming he's going to be playing a defensive type role. Will that be more of a lockdown type, someone like one of my ex-boys, Brandon Starcevic, or do you think that he'll also get on the run and attack as well as lock down and get a bit of a balance to his game? Where do you just see him fitting this year, mate?
Yeah, well, with Lockie Bramble sort of having a really interrupted seat at pre-season, and he was sort of penciled in as the back pocket. I don't think he's missed a game in the last 2 years. The position's really opened up, but even with Bramble being fit, Buderick, is a classy player. He's quick. He's only 175 centimetres. He's a short man, but my God, he's got pace, he's got tenacity, and that's the template we've looked at. He's played in the A team for our intra clubs in all of the games. So there's nothing that tells me that Bevo hasn't got him in his starting lineup. So we've seen him be an attacking player out of defence, as you sort of described in that footage there. So you don't miss a trick. That's that
love the Dogs.
Oh, that's awesome. So I see him as being an attacking player, but he has played that shutdown role in the past, and I think if there's a role to be played, he'll certainly be one of those first people that would take a small forward role like a Charlie Cameron or someone that you need to shut down. If you think that we've lost Taylor DeRay, who retired, he was that role, and we haven't sort of found a like for like. Buderick's probably the most likely, but he's got another sort of string to his bow that he can just run and go and explode. So it'll be interesting to see how they do play him. But I see a sort of a double-edged sword sort of skill set for sure.
Yeah, love that, mate. And I know that it must have been an attractive offer at the Dogs because my boys, the Lions, were also interested in acquiring his services, but obviously chose the Dogs. And I think it'd be a really nice fit there for you, mate, particularly, as you said, with players like Dre that are now exiting the side. Now we're getting right down to the rookie type price players. And I've got 3 here, and there might be more that you want to touch on. But I do have Jordan Croft at 209,400 as a forward, only 0.2% ownership at the moment. The man in the middle there, Jakes, you've said lock him in. And at the moment, take a look at that ownership. Way too low, mate. Way too low. I guarantee you after this podcast, that ownership will rise significantly from 2%.
Yep.
He's in like Flynn, get him in. And then this man as well. Take a look at that percentage. So we go from 0.2 to 2 all the way up to 23%. So in regards to the Dogs rookies, from the Supercoach community's perspective, this is where they're looking to go with Lockie Carmichael, 113,500, DPP status available as a defender or a midfielder. I believe that there was a bit of an injury setback for Lockie Carmichael. Is that correct, Matty?
Yeah, so I was at training. He got his legs tangled in a little tackling exercise, and he got a syndesmosis injury. So he was in a moon boot that came off on Monday. So they, these injuries are notoriously hard to sort of measure how long will you come back in. So there's talk that he may be available for the first week for round 0. However, they're probably likely, particularly for a first-year player, to be a bit more conservative with it. So I would, if I was a betting man, I would say he'd probably miss the first couple of rounds. But prior to that, he was looking unreal. Actually, just a line-breaking sort of half-back runner. Real penetrating kick on him. Just looked like he belonged, like he's like a 3rd or 4th-year player. Super confident. So I love the look of him, and I thought, He's going to be, in the mix for a round 1 selection. But I would say this setback will probably, I would imagine he'll probably come back or start in the VFL and build his capacity. But he'll certainly be playing. He'll be playing at some point this year, and I reckon he's going to be a pretty exciting proposition.
Fantastic, yeah, because we did hear lots of good news coming out of the kennel, but it seems from that quick chat that ownership, Carmichael, and the 2 Lockies, it should flip around the other way. So turn that around, people, and get that 2% closer to 100, because at 119,900, that seems like a really nice win at the moment, mate. How about Crofty?
Yeah,
looks like he's going to be part of your best 23 setup.
Yeah, I think so. Like, particularly now with the sub rule going, the clubs are going to look to exploit that with, your tall athletic sort of players who can play a bit of a hybrid role. And Jordan's, really an athletic sort of player who fits that mold. I think he'd be super dangerous up forward just to, create that triple 3-headed monster threat with Das and Nordo. And then, he also he's been rucking a lot in the practice matches. So he's been going up head-to-head with Timmy. So that gives a bit of a sign there that they're going to have to pull the trigger at different points in the game, and Jordan's probably going to be the man to do that. So, I'd be pretty excited to see how he goes, certainly. He can take a clunky mark as well, this man. And he's a beautiful, fluent runner. He has had a persistent toe injury. So he's been in and out of the rehab through the summer, and it's just been lingering a little bit. So he has missed some of the main body of training at different parts. So we're hoping he'll be fit and available, but probably his loading hasn't been as strong as as he would hope to be a lock for round 1.
Fantastic. It seems like he's got some great athletic and physical traits and could potentially turn out to be the ultimate type utility that can really fill a gap during game and can be used anywhere on the ground. So, yeah, what a young, exciting talent. The Dogs are full of it, mate. Now, before we let you go, and thank you again, mate, for coming on. It's been a phenomenal chat. We've got Cody Waitman here, obviously not available at the moment, more likely mid-season. But are any other players worth a bit of a shout that we haven't really touched on? Maybe some of the lesser names or anyone that you think may be a bit of a hidden gem, maybe not even now, but maybe looking into the season, Matty?
Yeah, so Oscar Baker has been sort of going head to head with Davidson. Sammy Davidson was sort of our preferred winger who replaced sort of your Lockie Hunter, and had a really good year last year, Sammy. But Bakes has really impressed. Like, I mean, he's a hard running sort of no nonsense, gets his hands dirty, sort of grunt. He doesn't have a polish. He'll just whack it on the boot and get it forward, but they're just loving what he's doing. Like, he's so courageous. He backed in. I saw one contest right in front of the Whitten stand, right in front of me, and my daughter just had to look away. He backed back, and Bailey Dale just popped his knee straight into his kidney, and Bakes just got straight back up. He's hard-nosed, but you know what? He's not afraid to take risks. I think you're going to see a lot more than his, maybe 35 games I would imagine he's played. I think that's really going to go up, and look out for Baker. I've really actually loved what I've seen from him, and I think he's probably in about his 8th or 9th year in the system. So he's right for an accelerated year for sure. So look out for Oscar Baker. Certainly, so it'd be interesting down back as well if we're looking for a third tall defender. Nick Caulfield's been going head to head with Buku Karmas. I have Buku slightly ahead, but in the A team, they've been starting with Nick Caulfield. So it'll be interesting to see. The next 2 or 3 weeks will be very telling as to who gets in. Sometimes they might only play 2 tall defenders in James O'Donnell and Rory Lobb. But if there's a triple threat, I guess for the opposition, then the likes of Buku or Caulfield will be sort of the next. And I love the athleticism that Buku brings. So look out for him. But James O'Donnell, really, I want to give a big shout out to him. He's an athletic lad who's really bulked up. He's showing a lot of leadership on the track, and he's just flying for his marks, just plays on and delivers. He also has been hitting the scoreboard. He's not afraid to sort of sneak forward and be that extra sort of overlap run. And he's had a really super solid preseason. That's underselling it. I think he's been a real standout. So they're probably the ones. There's a young kid called Lewis Emmett who's a 201 centimetre sort of full back. He played some ruck as well. We drafted him, I think, maybe with about pick 29, perhaps, something like that this year. He looks like he's a player. So I would imagine just keep your eye on him. He's on your watch list. He'll get some games at some point in the season, but he looks like a sort of a ready-made, beautiful intercepting athletic defender who's really impressed me. And I did have a sneaky chat with Bevo, and Bevo singled him out as one who is one that's really impressed as a first year. So look out for him. And just finally, as well as Cooper Hines, he had a really good first year, probably played maybe a dozen games, but again, really grunt player, sort of like a Clay Smith, just hard-nosed at it, head down. He has absolutely no fear, but he's beautiful. His handballing has been a real feature. He just whacks out these incredible fast laser handballs and releasing the likes of Richards, etc. So I think he's one who might be a sneaky chance for a round 0 as well.
Mate, not only have we covered the absolute superstars of the competition, we've even gone into Baker, O'Donnell territory, talked about where to look mid-season. Mate, I don't really have the words for what you've done for us today, mate. It has been, Matty, as it has been for the last couple of years, an absolute pleasure. I don't know how you do it, but somehow each time you come on, you just outdo yourself from the last time, which I never think is going to be possible because I thought, surely you can't get any better than this. There is no such thing as higher quality than Inside the Kennel. So, mate, thank you so much for joining us again. I think that the only issue with this is there may be some Supercoach people in the community that go, bugger this bloke. I'm so set on my team. And then I watch this team preview and this blue, red, and white just starts to filter into my side because I'm looking at your Freyers now. I'm looking at your Darcy's in the forward line. I tell you what, the knowledge that you have, talking with Bevo, past players, greats of the game, parents, families, you just do it all, my friend. You do it all. So I cannot thank you enough yet again, legend, for coming on.
Oh, back at you. It's unreal. I absolutely love coming on here and chatting. So anytime at all. And as we said last year, if any of the punters sort of have any questions, I'll jump on and I can sort of give some progress reports from here on because we're sort of early mid-Feb as this goes to air. So we've got another month or so before the real stuff starts. So ask your questions and I'm happy to give some updates anytime.
Mate, we can see there 1.36k subscribers. Now, this is absolutely criminal. We've talked about some robbery in regards to player ownership with some of these doggies. Let me tell you that's not near as high as what it should be. So if we can get the Inside the Kennel YouTube channel to at least 1.5k subscribers by game 1 of the season, we'll give you opening round. We'll give you to game 1 of the 2026 season. I'm going to give away a merch pack if we can do that. So we're getting closer. We're getting closer. But people, let me tell you, I'm doing you a favor here by putting you onto this man. I almost want to be selfish and keep him all to myself, but I can't do that. I need to be a good bloke and let other people know about the quality of this channel because it's much more than just player stats and game reviews. We're going deep into the history of the club with some of the most influential people that have seen and done things that we've never heard before, some inside scoops, and I can see why. It's because of you, mate. Just the way that you present yourself, you as a bloke, you as a human, your passion for the game, your passion for the dogs, your passion for helping out the community. It really is second to none, Matty. So, mate, before we say our final goodbye, what have you got coming up? Because I'm sure the audience are dying to find out what they can look forward to on your channel in the coming weeks or months.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thanks for that rap. Firstly, that's pumping my tires up. So I'll go and march around the kitchen now and tell my wife how good I am. She'll love it. So yeah, absolutely. So my co-host is Dougy Hawkins, which I failed to sort of mention. So Dougy, what a man he is, by the way.
Old Fitzroy boy, I say. Old Fitzroy boy. I'm not claiming him as yours, but...
And he sent me a text after you guys won the premiership and he put his Fitzroy top on and he said, hey, look at this past player, hey? So he loves the Roys. Don't worry about that. But anytime I ask Dougy, hey, can you get him on? Dougy says, Dougy, leave it to Dougy, and he'll pass on, the details of a player, and then they jump on. They never say no to Doug. So I've actually got Gary Dempsey, who's the 1975 Brownlow medalist, on next week, which I'm super pumped for, and Stevie Wallace, who was one of my sort of childhood 80s heroes. He's father of Mitchie Wallace. So I'm going to do a dad and son duo there, or back-to-back one. So I can't wait to get the Wallace boys. So that's what we're looking forward to. But as I said, the enemies of the kennel one, I can't wait for, because Warwick Kappa, I'm coming after you next. So we're just looking to lock in a time now. So watch out for Warwick.
The Wiz, and again, one of my all-time favorites. As you know, I've got the long locks and used to run with the mullet back in the day as well. The tight white shorts, the personality, the character that he was, larger than life. I don't know if I've looked forward to one like I will be now with Wiz Kappa, mate. That is just unbelievable. But, mate, again, it goes to show you quality. Cannot thank you enough, guys. Remember, please make sure that you do head over to Maddie's channel, give him a sub, give him a like, and merch pack on the cards. If we can get to 2.5k, we should be able to do that very, very quickly, guys. So thanks again for tuning in. I know that I'll be making some changes pretty quickly. Don't even worry about the early buy. These blokes are going to absolutely smash it during the preseason. I'm going to put Darcy down for the Coleman and put down a Bulldogs Lions grand final. Maybe a draw and some extra time. We'll see who wins after that one, Matty.
Good. Love it. That'll make Dougy Hawkins happy. I love that. Awesome. Well, thanks again for having me, and go Dogs.
Go Doggies. Thanks again, mate. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you soon in the next one. Bye.